3, 2, 1. What a fun game for the first game of the Western Conference Finals. A lot of notes to go here. One quick thing. Suns take a 1-0 lead over the Clippers. They win 120-114. First game of the Western Conference Finals. A couple notes, but I think we can easily just start off with the fact that Devin Booker is an absolute monster. We are seeing him blossom before our eyes to be just to take it to another level. I mean, for a while, he was the guy who was in the Valley of the Sun that was just star of the show for, kind of what he's been for his career. He's been this guy that just doesn't get enough attention. His teams aren't that good. And this year he totally is being able to take over on these big stages. He drops 40 tonight. 40 points, 13 rebounds, 11 assists. Just an absolute dominant performance from Devin Booker and just unbelievably fun to watch. He can really, again, there's not, a lot of these guys in the NBA, you want them to be able to score at all three levels. Get to the basket, have a mid-range game for those, tougher half-court defenses that you see so much in the playoffs, and then also be able to hit an open three and create an open three too. Booker is great. I mean, I feel like I need to look up some of his draft draft profiles, because it is insane that this guy was taken with the 13th pick back in 2015. He's outside of a top 10 pick, and does anybody want to go and review that draft and see what the other names that were taken ahead of him? It's crazy. Now, I have heard that Devin Booker refused to work out with some teams, so maybe that was it. But absolutely insane. Booker he's a star. He absolutely is a star, and he can get any shot on the court that he wants as long as he's playing aggressive. There was a couple times that you would think that the Clippers would try to double team him. Maybe that's something they try to do next game, but yeah, and Devin Booker's last few games here, 40 points tonight, 34 against the Nuggets in their closeout game, and 28 in the other win in Denver. So, the guy is emerging. The guy is he's here. He's arrived. Devin Booker has arrived. We'll just start off with that. What a huge win for the Suns without Chris Paul, because we saw what it was like with them when they didn't have Chris Paul. And, you kind of get worried, like, this is our team leader. This is the kind of the big acquisition of the offseason, and is, our point guard who is, again, the leader of the team. And they still are able to win with him or without him. And just huge. A lot of 2-pointers in this game. Obviously Booker had some. There's some 8 dunks. You look at the difference between 2-pointers and 3-pointers in this game. It's a little shocking. You go, for example, to note here, Clippers had 22 pointers, and then the Suns had 36. And just kind of interesting. I mean, they really get their buckets inside that 3-point arc. Now, it was a narrow win. That's not, I mean, Paul George gets blocked on the last possession by Mikal Bridges, the last meaningful possession. And, Batum's not able to hit the three. But if he does, it's a 1-point game. I mean, again, this is a close game. Extremely close game. You look at effective field goal percentage for the Suns, 62 today. Very good. The Clippers don't force many turnovers, and so, see the Suns not really have to worry about turnovers at all. Look, this is going to be an offensive fireworks show. It's going to be interesting, and the Hawks and the Bucks may not be, maybe the total opposite. I personally feel the winner of this series is going to win the championship. And Phoenix looks like it. You go look at the Vegas odds. They're favoring Phoenix to not only win the series, but also to win the title without the two guys who are kind of ahead of them with Brooklyn and Utah out of the playoffs. DeAndre Ayton, again, played pretty solid tonight. I mean, he's talented inside. He was able to get some dunks and be able to run to the basket and get some dishes from Payne or Booker. And I mean this Suns team, man, you look at the 31 assists by the Suns tonight, absolutely great. And they played like a team. I mean, there was the alley-oop to Bridges on one of the later possessions in the fourth quarter that, Booker can go up with that. He's got 40. I mean, he gets 40 in this game, but he sacrificed 40 points and 11 assists. Unbelievable. Ayton was put on man for some possessions of the game. Again, that's the same strategy the Utah Jazz used. And man hit a couple threes. I don't think it was as bad. I mean, he goes 3 for 3 from 3. It's still the guy you want to shoot as far as the Clipper starters go. But just kind of be aware that could happen. Does Ayton get sucked in a little bit more? Do they look at the film and say, hey, we need to make sure we can somehow make Ayton feel uncomfortable? Because I don't feel like Ayton really felt uncomfortable in the game. Again, he goes 10 of 14. He still gets 9 rebounds and gets 20 points. So that's that's confidence right there. The other thing that Suns did that I thought was really interesting is that they were able to match the 5-out with their own 5-out. They were able to have some rotations where they had Etuan Moore and they had Cameron Johnson, they had Torrey Craig, and they had Dario Saric. This team is interesting because they don't have a guy outside of Ayton that can't hit a 3. I mean, it's Ayton who's the interior dude, and then everybody else is able to shoot. And that's how you kind of want to build a team in the NBA now. So do you see other teams try to model after that? Because I mean, again, one game, but you look at that game and you just see the absolute just togetherness as a team, and it's unbelievable to watch. Cameron Johnson, shout out to him. I mean, he played a really good game off the bench. Young dude, hits 2 threes, gets a couple steals, and was good for them tonight. Ball movement was just absolutely a joy to watch. It just makes the game a lot more fun to see. And I think if teams implement that more, instead of kind of just throwing it into the one guy and having them post up or having them ISO, it's a lot more fun to watch the pass around blender style of an offense. So that was fun. Suns up 1-0. Let's move to the Clippers. So the Clippers had 23 pointers tonight. Absolutely insane. They continue this 3-point barrage that they've been on. And if you go look at some, the recent games against the Jazz, I mean, obviously the last one that they played against Utah and won and were able to close out the series, they were absolutely monstrous. And obviously had a they made 23s in the closeout game in Game 6 against Utah. In Game 5, where they win on the road, they hit 16, and then in Game 4, their last game with Kawhi in the lineup, they hit 15. So this team they're shooting their threes, and they definitely can be elite. And you don't see many games in the NBA where a team hits 23s and outshoots the other team as far as the above the 3 arc goes, and still lose. But it was a close game nonetheless. I think the Clippers are fairly encouraged by this. But what they need is that they need 3 scores essentially with Kawhi out. And this is kind of my theory, especially in the playoffs, is you need 3 dudes that can be able to get you 20 points. To really secure a win. Again, this is another situation where it's like you don't see many teams lose when they get 3 guys in 20 plus points. And tonight for this Clippers team without Kawhi, they get 24 from Reggie Jackson, and they get 34 from Paul George, who's been on a tear lately. Really, outside of those first 2 games, really after Game 1 in that Utah series, he just became a new man. A new guy. And it's interesting to see. Both of these teams are coming in hot. I mean, obviously, the Clippers going into this game had won 6 of their last 8 games. And then the Suns themselves had won 3 games against the Lakers. And then they go and sweep the Nuggets. So, I mean, these teams are pretty hot and on fire coming into this game. It's going to be a fun series. Ty Lue mentions after the game that he doesn't really necessarily know about when Kawhi is going to return. I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. The injury itself against the Jazz happened. It happened on Tuesday, so that will be, a week from tomorrow or today or whenever this is posted. It will be interesting to see if Kawhi really can do anything. I just don't know if he's going to be able to have any imprint on this series and be able to play at all. It will be really interesting to see if anything kind of materializes out of that, because I just don't feel like Kawhi is going to be able to be a part of this series at all. So don't get your hopes up. However, be encouraged that you got a close win. However, Chris Paul did not play. Look, the Clippers also tested some of their depth. They pretty much kept Zubac and Cousins on the bench and Rondo in that last series against the Jazz, and they kind of just didn't really. They had to find what worked against Utah, and now they'll have to find what works against this Suns team. This Suns team can kind of be versatile. Again, I mentioned that they can throw a 5 out of their own and have guys on the perimeter that can shoot a 3 and have that be in all 5 positions. There's still kind of a Zubac awkwardness where, he's good, but sometimes on defense he's not great. Again, they're only giving him 18 minutes a game, so they're obviously not valuing or believing that that's how they're going to win, like in the playoffs. DeMarcus Cousins comes in, sparks them a little bit, but gets 5 personal fouls in 13 minutes. I mean, come on. Boogie is not what he once was, and I think the Clippers rely on him too much. I mean, that's kind of a bad thing. Marcus Morris does not have a good game. He was kind of benched in that fourth quarter of the last game against Utah in Game 6. Needs to shoot the ball a little bit better, and I feel like, again, they need multiple scorers that can get up to 20, especially without Kawhi. I mean, think of the Suns tonight. They get a lot of points from their main dudes in Booker and Ayton, but Booker gets 40. So again, that's almost 2 people if you're kind of just saying, oh, let's just make a benchmark of 20 as far as points scored. And so again, interesting game, super fun game. I think that I don't know if the Clippers can really have a game like that again, especially from 3, but again, they've been shooting the 3 really well lately, so you never know. Interesting one. I do ultimately believe that the team that wins this series will go on to win the NBA championship. I think that these are the 2 best teams left in the playoffs, so obviously that is why I am kind of that mindset or of that thinking. Game 2. Let's quickly talk about this very quickly and preview it. Now, Game 2 is in 2 days. So they will play on the 22nd and have only a day in between games. At what point do the Clippers get tired? That's kind of my question that I ask, because they just came off of a series against the Jazz where they were playing every other day. And the last couple of games in Dallas were every other day. So you only have 1 day in between games. The physical nature of the game, the mentality that goes into that, the travel. It's going to be really interesting. And to kind of give everybody a kind of a preview of this, the schedule is set out as this. They will continue to play every other day till the end of this series. So they will play the 22nd. They will then go to LA to play on the 24th and the 26th. They will go back to Phoenix on the 28th, then go back to LA on the 30th, and then 2 days later, there is no 31st day in the month, so 2 days later, they will go play again for Game 7 if it reaches that. Interesting thing. I mean, the Hawks and the Bucks are going to get 2 days off. They're not playing until Wednesday, so it's just kind of weird and interesting. So hopefully, again, we've seen too many injuries in the playoffs already. We don't want to see any more, but you got to think at some point, for the Clippers especially, because they didn't have a week off like the Suns did. At what point do the Clippers feel at what point did their legs get tired? And they do miss Kawhi. Game 2 is big. We will see what happens. Fun series. I still think it's going to be a little entertaining with Kawhi, even though Kawhi's out. However, I mean, these are two fun teams to watch. These are the two best teams in the conference. I generally thought that going into the playoffs that the winner of the Lakers-Suns series was going to play the Clippers in the conference finals. So that is it. We're excited for game 2, and we will see you later.